Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Mega Man 6 for the NES, the last Mega Man on the system that I had to re-record. So as some of you guys might know, I've been going through a lot of my back catalog and updating them for the modern day. Better video quality, hopefully better gameplay, maybe a slightly different perspective on the games as well. And so Mega Man 6 is actually the last one of the NES Mega Man games that I had to cover again. Over the last 2 years we've been going through them, 1 through 5. And this is it. Mega Man 6 is actually a really awesome game. It's a very well-made Mega Man game. It's one that's often overlooked. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it's because it's a very late NES release, came out around the same time as Mega Man X on Super Nintendo. But it is a fantastic game, and I think a great way to wrap up the NES series of Mega Man games. I've actually done multiple runs of this on Twitch over the last couple of weeks, and it's been a good time going back to this game. It's definitely a really solid Mega Man game. So. But basically what we're going to do is I'm going to fight specific Robot Masters in order so I can get some upgrades early in the game, and I'll explain how that works. And then we're just going to go through the rest of the game. You can get beat letters to collect beat. I'm not going to really worry about those because beat isn't all that useful in my opinion. It's a lot more useful in Mega Man 5. But I will explain that a little bit too, just to at least talk about it or touch on it. So, but yeah, the rest of the playthrough is going to be relatively normal. I like to generally play Mega Man games, mostly Buster only. But towards the end of the game, I will switch up to some Robot Master weapons because they're just very helpful on certain, Wily stage bosses and whatnot. So, but yeah, I'll explain more as we go through the game. So before we kick things off, as usual, I'm going to give a big shout out to my current Patreon backers who are backing my channel via Patreon. So thank you guys for your continued patronage. Likewise with the recent live stream super chatters, those nice folks are going to flash by the screen too. So thank you guys for your continued direct support to my channel here. So, but with that, let's go ahead and hit the start button. And actually the introductions here is a little weird. If you let it roll out and the text is scrolling, you can't actually hit start and skip it immediately. Like there's a delay to it. It's kind of odd. I think this is the only Mega Man on the system that acts like that. So, but what we're going to do here is we're going to start with Flame Man because this is where you get Mega Man's power suit, or Power Mega Man as they call it in the game. And then we're going to do Plant Man after that because that's where we get the Jet Mega Man, or the Jet suit. So, but yeah, we're just going to start things off here. Nothing too crazy. Mega Man 6 actually isn't horribly difficult compared to some other Mega Man games. I mean, the Mega Man games in general, I don't want to say if you've played one, you've played them all, but there are some on NES that have more difficult sections than others, and Mega Man 6 is definitely on the easier end of things. Many less places to die instantly, and the enemies themselves aren't really too irritating to deal with. Like these guys, you just use your charge Buster Shot. And to do your charge shot, again, if you're for some reason watching this and you've never played a Mega Man game, you just hold down your attack button, which is the B button, and then that'll unleash a big, powerful shot. It was introduced in Mega Man 4, and it is a really fun mechanic that I really enjoy in these old Mega Man games. So, not even just these old Mega Man games, because it was a mechanic that pretty much became standard from Mega Man 4 and on. But I really like how it feels in the NES Mega Man games in particular. It charges up relatively quickly, and in Mega Man 5 and 6 in particular, the size of your charge Buster Shot is really large, which is actually really cool. It's one of the things I did enjoy, one of those changes that I did enjoy them making in 5 and 6. Although I still have a soft spot for the original Mega Man 4 Buster size. It's much longer, but it's thinner. Which makes for an interesting dynamic, especially considering it's the only Mega Man game now with a really thin Buster Charge Shot. So, this part right here, though, you want to make sure you don't touch that fire. You will die instantly, so you have to watch out for that. But one of the things about the Charge Buster Shot is if you do take a hit in Mega Man 5 and 6, your charge will get reset, so it's something you have to watch out for. There's a little bit of risk versus reward with that mechanic. Can't say I'm a huge fan of it, but, there is some risk versus reward there because it is a more powerful shot. So the risk is if you take a hit, you lose your charge, and it takes longer to charge up. So Flame Man here, he basically shoots out these fireball projectiles, and then he makes these firewalls come up, and these firewalls unfortunately can't be shot through with your main Buster Shot. There is a weakness weapon you can use against him. It's a little tornado that goes along the ground, and that'll actually go through the firewalls here. But yeah, good fight. He didn't take a hit. His firewalls could be a little tricky to deal with because the way they come up from the ground just seems to be somewhat random. And so you've really got to watch them from the beginning where you're like, he shoots them out. They'll sort of like come up in like a wave fashion. So you've got to use your eyes on that. And it's nice to be in the air when the firewalls come up because you can control yourself mid-air in this game. And so you can basically be in the air as the walls are coming up and then position yourself, you know, say you're going to land on a wall, well, you can move yourself out of the way if you're trying to do it, say, without taking damage or something. Mega Man games allow for really sloppy gameplay because your life bar is so large. And it's not even that you've got a large life bar. Even if you could take 3 hits, that's still a little bit of room to be sloppy in certain cases. And, yeah, a little bit of room to be sloppy and just tank hits. But that's, I mean, it's one of the nice things about Mega Man, though, is they're not super stressful games. Usually they can be. Some Mega Mans are just extremely nasty, but others like the NES ones, for the most part, you know, you've got a lot of freedom to... Oops, I missed that. Let's actually drop back down. I really have to actually hit that first shot, or connect with that first shot. Just like that. Those guys have a lot of hit points, and he was basically going to end up crushing me. It wouldn't kill me in one hit, but I would end up losing a lot of health unnecessarily, so... but yeah, the Mega Man games have a lot of freedom thanks to a large health bar, but also they're not super rigid when it comes to like screen transitions and things like that. Like that ladder I had gone up, I was able to go right back down it and then go back up once more and end up resetting that guy's position, so I could do it without taking damage, which was nice. Now there are areas where you can't go back, like I can't go back here. But if you see ladders, if you you know, have access to a ladder, you can go back up or down that ladder. And here we've got some springs. If you hold down the jump button, you'll actually be propelled pretty high into the air on these springs. Always a fun mechanic. I've always enjoyed this stage because of those springs. I like mechanics that allow for like variable jump height and things like that. It's just interesting to me. So that was actually completely unnecessary. I didn't need to get those, but I'm just sort of demonstrating the Power Mega Man suit. Power Mega Man suit has 2 forms of attack, by the way. You can attack normally, or you can charge up the attack for a very powerful blast. Now, I don't use the power suit, generally speaking, on normal enemies themselves. I just use it for very specific sections of the game where it requires you to use the power shot or charge shot to bust through a wall. Now this part right here is probably actually one of the trickier parts in Mega Man 6. I've heard people complain about this part before, but it's actually pretty easy if you just take your time. So you just want to wait for these piranha guys to jump up like so. Don't make any blind jumps here if you can avoid it. You want to get close to the edge, and then that'll be enough to trigger them, just like so. And then use the variable jump height on the springs. So what I do is I'm not holding down the jump button right now, and I'm just firing normally. And then when I want to do a super jump, I will hold down the jump button as I land, allowing me to do sort of a super jump like this. It's a fun mechanic. It's one that, you know, takes a little bit of practice to get the hang of, and once you get it down, it feels very satisfying to play, or to play with, to do, or I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. But yeah, this is Plant Man. He'll basically pull up a plant shield, and he'll jump over the screen, and when he lands, the shield goes wherever you are. Now, he has a tendency of cornering you, so you kind of want to stay more towards the middle of the screen on this fight if you can avoid it. So you really want to watch out for where he jumps. He keeps jumping in the opposite direction, which is helping me out a lot, actually. So this is making the fight really easy for me. But this is basically all he does. And he keeps going the opposite way. Normally, what I would expect him to do is jump towards me. Kind of like this. Okay, going in the opposite way again. The bosses in Mega Man 6 are generally pretty easy compared to other Mega Man bosses. They're not quite as aggressive. They have a tendency of jumping with very, very floaty jumps, so you oftentimes have a lot of time to see where they're going to go and where they're going to land. But yeah, overall the bosses in this game aren't too bad to deal with. Once you get the patterns down, they are still relatively fun to fight. I don't think they're the most enjoyable bosses in the series, but they're also not bad. They just sort of sit right in the middle in my eyes. So, but there we go. We got the Rush Jet adapter, and so the third thing we're going to do here is do Tomahawk Man stage, because this is where we can get our energy balancer, and the energy balancer is a nice addition to the series. Because what it does is your weapon upgrade, or your weapon power pellets, your weapon ammunition recharges that you can pick up. What it'll do is, normally you'd have to go and switch to your a very specific item, like so, to get you know, to replenish your energy. But you don't have to do that with the energy balancer. You can just pick up a power pellet, and then it'll just automatically apply that energy to whatever is you know, whatever needs it in your inventory. So you don't have to constantly switch to other sub-weapons to charge it back up, which is great. So, very nice mechanic that they introduced. I think they introduced it in this game. I don't remember there being an energy balancer in Part 5. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I know people will in the comments. It's actually been a little while since we've done the Mega Man 5 Let's Play, so the details on that game in my mind at the moment are a little foggy. But yeah, I really like how they introduced that in Mega Man 6. And you know what? For the longest time, I completely forgot the energy balancer was even a thing in this game until I went and looked it up on GameFAQs. And sometimes when I do these Let's Plays, I try to check game FAQs just to make sure I'm not missing anything significant, because, you know, there are things that can be hidden in these games that you might not know about, or you might have forgotten about because it's been so long since you've gone through the game a very specific way. And sure enough, I forgot the energy balancer was hidden in this game, and it was on this level specifically. So, when I was a kid, I used to try to, you know, explore a lot in these games. If I'd see a cracked wall, I would always try to destroy it, because the cracked walls in this indicate that you can use the power suit to destroy them. And I would try to do every single one, but as I've gotten older, it's mainly just about getting through the game. It's not about, you know, it's not about finding secrets and stuff like that. I just wanna shoot stuff. I just wanna fight bosses. I'm gonna dodge, and that's what's exciting for me. The exploration part isn't as exciting for me anymore. So, and so I completely forgot that the energy balancer was in here. So we have to use our power suit here, get right on the edge. Just like that. I'm going to switch back over. I can actually switch over to Jet Mega Man too, to make this part a little bit easier. And then Proto Man's going to be here, and he's going to drop the energy balancer for us. And there we go. Yeah, and so it appears in the bottom center of the screen, so now we can basically pick up energy, weapon energy, and it'll apply it to the weapons that need it right away, without us having to switch to that weapon. So in every other Mega Man game, you would have to switch to that weapon, or every other NES Mega Man game, I should say. Bam, there we go. We just demonstrated it. We'd have to switch to that weapon to apply the energy to it. Otherwise, we'd pick up the collectible, and it wouldn't actually do anything. Yeah, so really nice addition to this game, to this series. So, there are actually, you can actually get the energy balancer in later Mega Man games as well. I know it's in Mega Man 9's and Mega Man's 9 and 10, or a similar item is at least. I don't remember if they actually call it the energy balancer there. But yeah, Tomahawk Man here, he'll basically shoot these 3 projectiles. You can jump over them if you time it just right. You can also slide under them, but I generally prefer to jump. The thing about jumping as opposed to sliding is that you can't shoot when you're sliding. So it means you have to wait until you stop and then you can shoot, which is a little bit more work for my head or my brain when I'm playing this game. So if I can jump with just as much success as sliding, I'd rather jump, because then I can shoot as I'm falling, whereas so I can shoot while I'm moving since I'm jumping, whereas I can't shoot while I'm moving when I'm sliding. So, but all right. So now the rest of the order that we go in doesn't really matter. I wanted to get my 2 suits first, and then I want to get the energy balancer. And then anything past that is just, you know, free game. It doesn't matter. So I can basically take the rest of the stages in any order I want. Yeah, so this level has a bunch of those pandas. They have a tendency of shooting projectiles upwards and towards you. I think they'll pretty much target wherever you are in the screen. And this level also has this mechanic with these fans. Like so. And notice that they just push you up like this. And so any kind of movement you want to do as you're going up, as you're getting pushed up. Now, unfortunately, I keep missing with my charge shot, and that's why it's important to be good with your charge shot. And this part right here, you want to basically move off as quickly as you can, otherwise you'll get pushed up into the spikes, and spikes in Mega Man games are really bad. You pretty much die instantly if you touch spikes in Mega Man games. Just about every Mega Man game. And I'm going to skip that energy tank. You actually get a lot of E-tanks in this game. And again, for those of you guys that haven't played these before, energy tanks allow you to refill your health. And if you hit the start button, they're denoted in the bottom left-hand portion of the screen, along with lives in the bottom right. So we already have 5 lives, and we have 2 energy tanks. So we basically have 2 free health bars that we can get back. And we'll have more towards the end of the game, which is why I don't really stop and try to pick up some of the E-tanks. This part can be a little tricky too, by the way, but I found out that you can just literally sit and just charge and shoot those guys in the head. And this part's kind of funny too. You can actually just sit here in safety. So don't rush out into that screen. You don't have to. There's absolutely no reason to. And some more somewhat trickery here. We got some spikes up top. Now we've got to fight one of these enemies while we do that. Still not too bad to deal with. I'm gonna skip that that energy. I could use the health, but my life bar is high enough. I don't really need it. I think I'll be fine. Alright, so this guy has a tendency of shooting 2 projectiles that you can jump over, and he also tries to suck you in towards him. And when he goes into the air like that, you just want to slide underneath him. So you want to watch out for that. And don't try shooting him when he's in the air. It's just not worth it. You'll probably end up taking a hit. And there we go. So if a boss is on their last life pellet, I don't even bother charging up. I just shoot them. So every shot to a boss will take away 1 life pellet. Now, in some other Mega Man games, it could be different based on the boss. So in like Mega Man 2, some bosses, you'd hit them, you'd take away 2 life pellets with 1 shot. Other bosses, you'd only take away 1. In this game, I'm pretty sure every boss you fight always has 1 life pellet depleted when you use your regular standard buster shot. But if they're on their last bar of health, yeah, again, because, you know, 1 buster shot is 1 bar of health, I don't even bother charging up. It's just, you know, just takes extra time unnecessarily. So whenever I play these Mega Man games, I'm always sort of micromanaging the boss's health as I play the game. I'm always thinking about little things like that in the back of my mind. So with Flame Man's shot, we could actually bust through that ice, but we're not going to bother with it. There are a lot of little things you can do in this game that are fun, like trying to get that extra life, but it's just unnecessary for me at the moment because I just have no need for it. And there's a block up there we can bust through with our power shot. Again, really have no need to. And again, another energy tank up there. Don't even really care. Oops, I thought I could actually go through that, but... Getting a little slick unnecessarily, Austin. Alright, so these guys shoot out missiles, and the missiles can be a little tricky to deal with. So what I usually do is I just try to focus on that guy specifically, but I am on ice physics right now, so that also affects my movement quite a bit, unfortunately. Now, there are spikes on the bottom of the screen as well, along with the top, so you have to watch out for those. Parts of this ship will go, you know, below the screen, and you will get hit by those spikes, and you will die. Alright, so I took some hits, not really a big deal, but we're still making decent progress overall. And that's what I always like when we're doing these playthroughs. Ooh, I thought that was going to hit him. Apparently not. So notice that you can shoot through the missiles with your Mega Buster shot, your charge shot. If you use your standard shot, it won't actually kill those instantly. It'll take maybe 2 or 3 hits or something like that. So it's good to just use your charge shot on these guys if you're going to play from a distance. If I get up close, I don't usually bother charging. Usually what I'll do is I'll unleash one big charge, but then for the rest of the damage on the enemy, I'll just get up and I'll mash the attack button, kind of like this. If you're good at mashing in these Mega Man games, you can do really rapid damage very, very quickly, which is also very satisfying, actually. I have found, though, like, it seems like you can't mash quite as quickly in the later NES Mega Man games as you could in the earlier ones. So, like Mega Man 2, for instance, I feel like there's a tiny bit of delay between shots in this, where if there isn't, it just feels different in this. And I'm sure people that are really experienced with these will probably end up telling you the same thing. And I'm doing a really bad job on this guy, actually. So, let's see. So when he goes into his ball form, he always crashes against the opposite wall. I wasn't really paying too much attention. But he's actually probably one of the trickier bosses in the game, because not only does he crash against the wall like that, and you've got to watch out for that, but he makes these snowflakes appear in the sky, and where they appear always seems to be somewhat random. I don't think they're super consistent, and they all come at you, and so that makes for an interesting dodging situation, especially if he does his charge attack after he makes the snow appear. So probably one of the trickier of the bosses in this game. And then we got Centaur Man here. Centaur Man's probably actually my least favorite boss in this game, because he can actually freeze you in the air, and you're almost guaranteed to take damage depending on where you are on the screen during his fight. But we'll go ahead and do this anyway, because we have to! We're gonna have to fight all these guys no matter what. There's no way to skip through, you know, to skip bosses in this game. So these flying guys, they drop fish, and that falling guy there, you need to sort of deal with him the second he appears, but I always forget about him, and so he always lands in the water, and I basically have to take damage. So for those of you guys that absolutely hate water levels in Mega Man games, this one actually isn't too bad. There's not a whole lot of danger here. Yeah, you've got spikes in the ceiling, but you've got so much wiggle room in this. You know, it's not like, say, Bubble Man stage in Mega Man 2, where you've got parts where you actually have to take it slow, otherwise you'll end up running into the spikes. But this level doesn't really have that. This is also an interesting mechanic, too. You've got water coming down from the ceiling, and so you have to actually make jumps at very specific moments in order to clear gaps, like right here. Again, I really like some of the mechanics they introduced in this game. They're not really that complex, but they are fun and interesting. So, you know, the game isn't super challenging or anything like that, but it is fun. You know, they've definitely implemented things in a way that makes the game interesting to play, even if it's not super challenging. And now we've got a section where these guys appear out of clouds, and then they'll start floating in the water and shooting you. Yet another relatively interesting mechanic. There's just a lot of good variety in Mega Man 6, and I almost feel like the game doesn't get enough credit that it deserves when it comes to the gameplay. This level is actually kind of giving me Mega Man 5 vibes, though, with like the pastel-like colors, so I'm not a huge fan of that, but you really only see that in 1 or 2 stages in this game. So, this actually introduces the one of our mechanics where you actually have real and fake bosses. And I can't remember if this is the real or fake one. I wasn't really practicing for that when I was playing this on Twitch. But basically, if you want to get the beat parts, you have to defeat the real Robot Master. Now, to actually beat the game, it doesn't matter which one you destroy. So to me, they're the same. They're one and the same. Except that, again, if you want the beat power-ups, then you have to fight the real one, so... And whether we've destroyed the real one or not, we won't know until we get back to the main character select screen. And there we go. That was sort of like the guaranteed damage I was talking about. So he freezes you in place, and he does this, you know, spread projectile shot. It goes all the way across the screen, hits a wall, and then shatters into a bunch of smaller pieces. So yeah, Centaur Man is probably one of my least favorite bosses to fight because of that. It is a little irritating. He also does this teleportation thing, and I've had it to where he teleports right on top of me, and that's kind of annoying too. He's a huge boss, and so jumping over him, yeah, it actually says we got the beat T part. So yeah. Yeah, he's not really hard per se, but he is just a little irritating because you can take some really cheap damage. So one of the other beat parts is on Tomahawk Man stage. You notice that there isn't anything on that block, indicating that there is something else to get there. So, but my concern with Tomahawk Man was getting the energy balancer. That's really what I wanted. So. But alright, still making decent progress, and you know what I'm going to do? I don't really need this, but I'm going to go ahead and get it anyway. So go ahead and charge up, just like so, and then switch back. So you notice that there's also an animation that plays out whenever you switch over to a different suit, and a different rush suit. But you can actually sort of skip through that. You can make it progress really quickly. And we've got some spikes here in the ceiling, and more of these drill enemies appear. So what we're going to do here is just wait. Just like so. Oops, and I missed it. Not missed it, but... Well, I took a hit. I didn't really want to take a hit, but it doesn't really matter that much. So here's some more shield-based enemies. There are a few of these guys in the game, but this game, fortunately, isn't littered with them like Mega Man 5 is. This was always one of my big complaints with Mega Man 5, is there were so many enemies that stop the flow of the game, and Mega Man 6 doesn't have nearly as many of them. Or if they do, they're implemented in a way where they can still be sort of quick killed. Like this level has quite a few enemies where, like these guys right here, you just shoot them once, and then their heads pop out, and then you go 1-2, and you kill them instantly. But Mega Man 5 has a lot of enemies where you literally have to wait for their shields to come up, and it's time-consuming. It just stops the flow of the game. But Mega Man 6, in my opinion, flows much better than Mega Man 5. I like some of the introductions of Mega Man 5, like the larger charge shot is really cool. But there are a lot of other things that they implemented in that game that just I think really hurt the flow of the game. So. But Mega Man 6 flows pretty well in that regard. Now this area is actually kind of tricky. I always take damage here. And explaining these mechanics is cumbersome at best, so... And let's actually come down here. I believe this is where the real Nightman is. But again, I'm not trying to get beat. We're not going to get beat because we're not going to go back to Tomahawk Man stage. That'll just add another 10 minutes to the playthrough. But Beat acts just like he does in Mega Man 5. Except, interestingly, I don't think he can actually attack bosses in this one, from what I've read. So, Beat is basically this little bird guy that will follow you around, and he'll home in onto enemies and do lots of damage to them. But given this game's, you know, general difficulty level, it's not really a necessary power-up. It's neat, but it's not something I really ever feel obligated to get. Now you can actually hit Nightman on the way down, but you have to get the shot just right, otherwise his shield will block it. See, kind of like that. I'm mistiming it. But that's basically all he does. He just jumps. He's always using a shield in front of him, which will block your shots. And then he basically throws out his little ball and chain. I don't really see a chain, but it's a similar mechanic. Yeah, so we fought the right one. We got another beat part. But again, we're not going to actually get beat. So we're gonna go ahead and do Yamato Man here, and then we'll end up going to Mr. X's. Mr. X, or is it Dr. X? I don't remember what it was. We'll go to the first of the castle stages, and then after that, we will go to Wily's final castle, and then that'll be it. Wily himself is actually, his castle actually ends really quickly in this game, which, again, is kind of nice. Like, some Mega Mans have a tendency of overstaying their welcomes, and I feel like Mega Man 6 ends at just the right time. Yeah, there are 2 castles, but fortunately, they're not extremely long like some other castles are in some NES Mega Man games. There's our first death. I wasn't really paying attention. That's okay. Not a big deal. We've got plenty of lives. And that wall down there, you can break that open with the power suit. Now, the timing on these guys' projectiles are... it's a little weird to deal with. I always mistime them. And they do appear a couple of times over the course of the rest of the game. Let's try not to die here again. There we go. These guys are a little annoying to deal with, I will admit. Because their projectiles, I don't think you can destroy them mid-air, whereas a lot of projectiles like that in these Mega Man games, you can usually destroy them as they drop, but not with those guys. And then when their projectiles hit the ground, they explode, so the blast damage is, with the blast radius, is quite large, so that can make them really tricky to deal with. So more of these piranha bots. So one thing that was introduced in mainly Mega Man 4, I don't think it was really something in the earlier Mega Man games for the most part, but in Mega Man 4 in particular, they had a lot of moments where there would be endless pits, and enemies would pop up from them. And I couldn't remember that happening frequently in the earlier Mega Man games, but it happened a lot in Mega Man 4. And so that sort of trained me to always stop before pits. And that training definitely helped out a lot in this game, because there are several pits in the game where you get next to them and enemies just pop up from them. And if you just rush through and you jump without even stopping, they will hit you pretty much. So it's something you have to watch out for. So Yamato Man here basically will shoot out this three-way spread shot, and then he'll shoot this dart across the screen. Now, when the dart is on the ground, it will still hurt you, so you have to make sure that you don't land on top of it. And there we go. Again, he's not too bad of a boss fight, but with his spread shot, you know, it does angle. So if he's at a very specific part of the screen and you're more at like a 45-degree angle to him, his spread shot will angle into your direction. It's a very rigid angle, but it is something to keep in mind. So you do have to watch out where his spread shots go. And if he's too close to you when he lands, you're probably going to end up getting hit by his dart that he shoots across the screen, and then he's going to run straight at you. So, like some of the other bosses in the game, well, that wasn't even the right one. I thought it was the right one, but it's not. Sneaky walkthrough. I was looking at a walkthrough that said the bottom route was the right one, but it's not. So, oh well. Doesn't matter, we're not going to get beat anyway. But if you guys want to get beat when you play this game, just make sure you find the correct path. So apparently, the opposite path was the correct one there. There was basically a split path where we could switch over to the jet suit and then fly up to a ladder. And that was the correct path. But unfortunately, we went the bottom way, which is not the correct path. So if you want to get the beat parts, you do have to have both the power and the jet suits. If you don't have those, then you're not going to be able to get the parts that you need. So we're going to be using Jet Mega Man a little bit on this stage. These guys are pretty irritating too, to be honest with you. Just slightly irritating. You'll notice that of all the enemies in the game that have hit me the most, it's been these guys. So that should tell you something right there. Now there's also a secret area and shortcut if you try to bust through that wall. It's very, very difficult to do. I did a long play of this game. So before I did Let's Plays many years ago, I would do dedicated long plays and put commentaries on top. I think in that long play I actually went for that, and I died and died and died again, but I did get it eventually, just to show it off. Let's just fly over this. Alright, so just fly over this way, watch out for those spikes. And with Jet Mega Man here, I could just shoot a lot of these guys in the air pretty easily. So, when you're using Jet Mega Man, or the Jet Suit, you do sacrifice charging, so you can no longer charge up. But when a lot of the enemies take 1 or 2 hits to die, or to kill, it's really not a big deal. And here's our first boss fight. So let's go ahead and switch back to our normal suit, so we can charge up. This boss is actually somewhat reminiscent of a boss in Batman on NES. A late boss. That's actually a game I did a Let's Play of last year. It was actually a really fun run, so for those of you guys new to my channel, consider checking that out. I think we ended up getting a 1 life clear in that game. But yeah, very reminiscent of that. Whenever I get to this boss, I always think Batman on NES. And there we go. So it looks like we're about 37 minutes into the playthrough, which isn't too bad. We're already, you know, not quite a quarter of the way through. Well, maybe we're about a quarter of the way through the first castle. The first castle doesn't have that many levels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I guess we are a quarter of a way through it. So, like I said, the castles in this game, they don't really overstay their welcome. Going through them isn't too bad. Now, there's a mechanic here that's introduced where, okay, are you gonna blow up too? Okay, there you go. Where this grating indicates that you can fall down into it. Now, there are gonna be a couple of moments later on where that grating will reveal spikes and you'll die, so, it's something that you have to watch out for. The Mega Man series has always been good about introducing mechanics in a relatively safe manner, so basically what that demonstrated there was you being able to fall down behind that grating. And then what they tend to do is boost the difficulty of that mechanic slowly as the level progresses. And so now that we've learned that we can fall down in there, there's going to be this one right here, which basically forces us to switch to Jet Mega Man, which increases the difficulty of it slightly more, and then this one maximizes the difficulty of it by forcing you into spikes. So, Mega Man's always been good about teaching the player how to deal with later sections. Alright. So again, Mega Man 6 isn't that difficult. I've said it a ton of times over the course of this playthrough. And even though there are some dangers on this level, it's really not that bad to deal with. I mean, I really feel like this is probably the easiest Mega Man game on the system. Now, just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not fun. I think there are a lot of interesting mechanics. A lot of the boss weapons are interesting. The jet and power suits really make for interesting platforming as well. We're gonna also use the Tomahawk on this part because this guy always sits up on that wall, and he rarely comes down far enough to where you can actually hit him with your buster shot. So what we're gonna do is just try to avoid his projectile and watch out for the rocks. And this is where having the energy balancer will come in handy because I can use this like relatively recklessly and not have to worry about how much ammo I have because I will get energy pellets. Ammo refill pellets, and it'll automatically apply those to the Tomahawk that I just used, because the Tomahawk I think is the only sub-weapon I've used so far on this castle. So what's interesting about the castles is when you use sub-weapons, that ammo doesn't recharge between levels. That was a mechanic that was basically always in the Mega Man series. I don't remember if it started with Mega Man 1 or if it was Mega Man 2. But it makes using sub-weapons in castles a little more risky. So it's something you have to keep in mind when you're doing this. Let's actually try to use the Centaur Flash and see if it will actually do damage to this guy. Yep, we do. Okay, awesome. So the Centaur Flash is actually a pretty cool sub-weapon. It basically acts as like a screen-clearing bomb. And enemies that don't die in one hit, generally it'll still do damage to them, at least, which is nice. Actually, no, we're gonna go ahead and stick with the Jet Mega Man. Because this part, it definitely helps if you have it. You can just fly over these parts instead of actually dealing with the platforming. And we're just gonna wait for those guys to shoot and then move. And this part I'm just gonna sort of do normally. Just gonna jump up like this. You have to watch out so you don't take damage from that guy. And now we're gonna switch back. Oops. So you notice that this game has a lot of alternating pathways as well, which is pretty cool. I think that adds to the replay value. It's like, do I want to go left, or do I want to go right, or do I want to go up, or do I want to go down? They're little things for the most part, but it's always nice when a game gives you some semblance of choice as you're progressing through it. Alright, switch back. And one thing I do here is you can do the power suit like this, or you can switch to the jet suit and actually fly down the bottom way. And in my practice runs, I would actually fly down the bottom way just because it was more interesting to me. A little more challenging to do. But yeah, I really like the jet suit in this game because it gives you a lot of flexibility in your movement options, which is pretty cool. Alright, and this boss isn't too bad. I just sit on one side of the screen. Oops. Nope, thinking of a different boss. Never mind. We have many more bosses to go. But what's interesting is this guy shoots these bouncy shots, but he also shoots shots that are just straightforward. And the ones that are straightforward look like you should probably have to slide under them, but you don't. You can just stand normally. I would always try to slide under them, but nope, you don't have to. It's unnecessary, just stand. So on that fight, it's really just the bouncy shots you have to worry about. And the straight ahead shots, they're really only going to do damage to you if you're in the air like I was on the earlier part of that fight. I was in the air, and then his shots went out straight forward, and I landed on one. So, but if you're trying to do that boss, say, without taking damage, just sit, wait for him to fire his straight shots. He'll usually shoot, I think, 3 straight ahead, and then you can jump and shoot afterwards. So you need to do baby jumps here. If you do full jumps, you'll actually hit those spikes. And then you'll die instantly. So this is actually one of the trickier levels in the game. You've got these birds that come up from the bottom. And then they hatch. And when they hatch, they will dive bomb you, like so. A lot of times what I do is I just tank here. I take some hits. I don't really worry about my health too much. There is some health refill right there if you need it. But I'm not going to worry about it. And that shield guy goes all the way across the screen on this part. In a lot of Mega Man games, they'll push him all the way over, but then give you just enough room to sit there in safety. But they don't do that in this one. They just slam them right in your face. So you really want to try to just stay on that ladder. Platforming here is somewhat tight, so if you're going to do this without the jet suit, you have to watch out for that. And we'll go ahead and grab this E-Tank. That one was free, so I'll go ahead and take it. I'm gonna tank a hit right here. I do want to get rid of these turrets, though, because they can be a little annoying to deal with as you're trying to get through here. So, notice I took a lot of damage there, you know, almost half my health bar. But, it's not really a big deal. Because, again, these bosses are generally pretty easy for the most part. And this guy right here shoots down this beam that will hit the ground and split out 2 ways. And all I do is I just sit here in the corner like so, watch out for that beam. I'm always eyeing that beam. Like so. Not jumping too early, not jumping too late. Just like that. And that's it. That's the boss. And Dr. Wily fake out as always. And now we're at Dr. Wily's castle. And Wily's castle only has a few levels as well, and they're not very long either. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 apparently, but it doesn't even feel like it's 4, to be honest with you. So what we're gonna do is switch over to our jet suit though, so we can fly over all these blocks. Now, there are some interesting situations on this level that involve the jet suit, which is pretty cool. They can actually be pretty tricky as well if you don't know how to deal with them. And let's actually go ahead and get that health. I don't trust myself at this point. And we're just gonna skip that guy. And I should probably try to just skip these guys too, but I'll go ahead and kill them. Just like so. Couple of spike pits here, or spike traps. You have to watch out for those. Ooh, that was close. Ooh! I didn't hold my jet long enough, and I just clipped the spike just barely. And this is one of the annoying things about this level, though, is the checkpoint is pretty far back, so we're gonna do this again. But yeah, so while the game's not that difficult, there are a couple parts in the game where if you slip up just barely, you will end up dying. So you do have to be careful on certain parts of the playthrough. And we'll just squeeze through this time. And remember that when you take damage in this game, you do have invincibility frames, so as long as you're blinking, you are invincible. And this is the tricky part I was talking about. You basically have to, it helps to do a baby jump there. And we'll go ahead and grab this, because we do need it. It helps to do a baby jump, and then just let your jets rip completely. Notice that your jets... You'll stay in the air, and you'll keep momentum as long as you've got energy. But you want to make sure you do it with a full bar as well. Because if you don't do it with a full bar, you'll notice that you can't stay in the air as long. See, kind of like this. So, it's something to keep in mind when you're using the jet suit. Using the jet suit here is probably the easiest as well. Because, like I was mentioning earlier, dodging their projectiles has always been a relatively tricky affair for me, getting the timing just right. And with the jet suit, you can just stay hovered up long enough to where you'll pretty much always dodge their projectiles, guaranteed. Alright, so let's go ahead and switch back over to our main buster shot. And this is the dragon boss. This is actually probably one of the trickier bosses in the game, because of his fireball projectiles and the moving platforms. Now, you can use, I think, Yamato Man's shot on this guy. I think that's his weakness, but I'm just going to use my, my Charge Buster. You need to hit him in the face, kind of around his nose and where his eyes are. And let's go ahead and use an E-Tank, just so we don't die. Oh, I only have 2 E-Tanks. Huh. I didn't have as many as I thought I would. That's because I've skipped a lot of them. And there we go. Yeah, so for me personally, that's one of the tougher bosses to fight consistently without taking damage. I find that his fireball projectiles, like, you'll think they're gonna go down at like a 45-degree angle, but instead they'll just go straight ahead and hit you as you fly up one of those floating platforms. Hey, an E-Tank. Let's go ahead and get that. I don't think I'm gonna need it, but, you know, just in case, since I just used one. Yeah, see, like right here, notice that these guys, they don't go into the ladder itself, which is always interesting. So it means you can connect to the ladder and you're basically 100% safe. We've also got some disappearing platforms, classic Mega Man blocks. Although they're really easy to deal with in this game. I think the developers placed them there just like as an obligation. Not so much because they really needed a section with those blocks. But it's a staple of the Mega Man series, so... You know, if you don't see the blocks, you kind of wonder where they went. How come they're not here? But yeah, there was also a shortcut to the top right as well. You could use Flame Man's shot to take a shortcut. But again, I don't usually bother with the shortcuts. Yeah, and just look at how short these levels are, by the way. They're not long at all. Now, they're longer if you die, because the checkpoints, I think, are a lot more harsh on these levels, due to the length. So this guy likes to get close to you, and when he does, you can shoot him on the feet, and push him back. Kind of like so. And fortunately, your charge shot does override his little black bombs that he shoots out. And there we go. So while Wily's Castle here has 4 levels, the levels aren't very long at all, so you just blitz right through this castle. And I'm okay with that, because like I said, you know, I've said it multiple times in this playthrough, and it's giving me lots of energy tanks now for free, so I shouldn't have even been worried about those E-tanks at all. Yeah, the tendency I find with some Mega Man games is they overstay their welcome when it comes to the castle areas of the game. And while Mega Man 6 technically has, you know, 8 or more castle stages, they're not that long, so they definitely don't feel like, you know, 8 stages. Yeah, and this is the boss fight, or the boss rush again. So this is where we're gonna start. We're gonna try to use the boss sub-weapons against the bosses, or the boss weaknesses against them. Alright, so we've got Tomahawk Man here, and what was his weakness? So some of this I'm gonna have to try to figure out on the fly. Let's try... Actually, it might be Plant Man, to be honest with you. Yeah, it is. And switch back over. And just like other Mega Man games, whenever you defeat the boss, a big health pellet will appear. And in this one, I think you actually have to collect the health pellet to exit the room. Whereas in other ones, there would be a teleporter at the front. Alright, so let's try... We did Plant Man. Let's try... I don't think it's the Blizzard attack. Might be Tomahawk Man. No, actually, I think it's the Centaur Flash. Yep, it is. Now, bosses in this game, they have invincibility frames as well whenever you hit them. They usually have a lot of them, so... if you try to do damage when they're in their invincibility phase, you will not do extra damage. So, in the case of using the Centaur Flash, you don't want to use it a second time while they're blinking. You're not going to do anything, you're just going to waste your ammo. And so for this one, we need to use Nightman's weapon. And this is why I also time my shots. Just like that. So when you know the weaknesses of the bosses, you can just rip right through them. And this one is Yamato Man's weapon. It'll actually eat right through his shield, which is nice. So he can't actually block your shots. But he still likes to jump around like crazy. And there we go. It makes his shield extremely trivial. And Plant Man. What was Plant Man? What was his weakness? It might have been the Blizzard. Since plants don't like cold... It does quite a bit of damage, actually. And there we go. And we've got Yamato Man. And his weakness, I believe, is probably the Tomahawk. Yep. Definitely the Tomahawk. And I'm just eating damage like it's eating damage like it's breakfast. Alright, last two guys. And we've got Blizzard Man here, so this is gonna be Flame Man. Usually, you know, either ice or water things do good against fire bosses, and then, fire, usually does good against, you know, ice-based bosses. Oops, I mistimed that big time. And there we go. Now, I guess Flame Man is going to be our last boss. Which is appropriate, since he was our first boss when we first played this game. And let's see what's going to work against him. Yeah, it's the Windstorm, that's right. So again, the Windstorm can actually go through his firewalls, which is pretty cool. See? Just like that. So it makes him a piece of cake. And there we go. Alright. So on to Wily. We don't even fight a boss there. We just fought all 8 Robot Masters again. And then it just takes us to the final Wily stage. So like, the final Wily stage is just the Wily boss fight. It's you know. So even though there are 4 levels there, there's not really 4 levels. Now the Tomahawk weapon is actually Wily's weakness. We do have to do a couple of things like these. But what's good about this part is, if you wanted to, you could just let these me tools just constantly appear. And then maybe grind out on power-ups. But I don't know, it seems a little slow, and they haven't even dropped a single power-up yet. Oh, there we go. So it's kind of nice they give you the option to grind out for sub-weapons, or sub-weapon energy. Energy tank. Thanks, Flip Top. Alright, so for Wily's first couple of forms, I'm just going to use the Charge Buster shot. And this first form here, he basically slams across the screen like that, and you just want to slide underneath it. Not too tough to deal with, you just gotta watch out for these projectiles. Bam, just like that. Oops, I didn't mean to go that way. Alright, now onto his third and final form. So you can still shoot him with the Mega Buster, but a lot of times he's up in the air and it's a little bit harder to do that. So we're going to try to use the Tomahawk. Now his invincibility frames aren't that long on this form, which is nice. So if you time it right, you can get a couple of hits on him. And that's it! We just beat Mega Man 6. For I think like the third or fourth time on this channel. I originally did a long play many years ago that I mentioned early on in the playthrough, but then I did my first Let's Play of it, probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. And then, and now we're doing my second Let's Play, but third video, that is, updated in video quality. We also did a couple of live streams of the Mega Man series, which is where I think my fourth playthrough is. So, and we'll probably end up playing these games again in the future. What I'm thinking about doing, and let me know if you guys like this idea or not, but I'm thinking about doing like a Mega Marathon or something like that, or a Mega Manathon, where I'll play through like all 6 NES Mega Man games in one stream on YouTube. So if you guys would like to see that, let me know. I've done previous streams where I played through 3 games on one stream, and then I did the other 3 games on another, but if you want to see all 6 games back to back on stream, let me know. So, but yeah, this is Mega Man 6. Again, this is the last NES Mega Man game I had to cover in my channel here as a re-record, trying to basically refresh a lot of my content because the old video quality was pretty horrid to look at. A lot of the old video quality in my channel was just absolutely nasty. It's composite video, and then upscaled in a way, and via my capture card, and it just, I don't know, it has this extremely soft look that, in my opinion, is very difficult to look at. But this video footage is nice and crisp since we're recording from my AVS console, and I'm basically going through a lot of my old NES ones in particular, and trying to get them up to sort of modern standards. Plus, it's also fun going back through these games since, you know, I've been doing YouTube for a long time now, and so you know, my perspective on a lot of these games has changed. My gameplay skill has gotten better in certain regards, and the way I think about games as I'm going through them has evolved. So it's always interesting going back and playing these games again, practicing them, getting through them again, and even analyzing them a little bit differently than I did before. So, yeah, hopefully this video was somewhat enjoyable to you guys. It probably wasn't the most exciting thing out there because it is Mega Man 6. It's not a horribly difficult game. It's one of those games I think that, like, anyone that has trouble with Mega Man games, I feel like they should probably be able to get through this one without a lot of trouble. And there are a couple of parts in the game, like, you know, the Wily stages near the end. There are a couple of tricky platforming sections, especially the part with all the birds coming out and whatnot. You know, that could definitely be tough to deal with. But for the most part, the rest of the game is actually pretty easy. And, you know, in a way, it's a good beginner's Mega Man game. So for those of you guys that have thought about trying out the series, but you're not sure about the difficulty, definitely try this one. I think you guys will probably end up enjoying it. And, you know, anyone that hasn't really put a lot of time into this game, or maybe you've only finished it once 20 plus years ago, maybe consider trying it again. It is a really fun Mega Man game that oftentimes gets, you know, overlooked or bashed, or, you know, I don't know if it's people that haven't really put a lot of time into it, but it is a fun game. It's a very solid, well-made game, and again, I think it's a great way to end the series on the NES. and for those of you guys that have never played any Mega Man game, you're still watching this for some reason, there are a lot of different collections out there as well. You can get, like there's the more recent Mega Man Legacy Collection for Xbox One, PS4, and PC, and actually maybe I think even Switch now as well. So if you don't have an NES or some kind of clone console, you can check that out as well on modern systems, and you know, play these games with save states and things like that. And there are some extra challenge modes you can play, which are really cool. We'll actually have to do a live stream of those as well. Do the Mega Man Legacy Collection and just do like the challenge modes. That's actually pretty interesting as well. So it's another stream idea actually I just came up with. So if you guys want to see that, let me know your thoughts on that too. If you made it to this point in the video. But yeah, Mega Man 6 is a great game. I do recommend it, whether like you've already played it or if you've never played it. And it's definitely one of the easier ones in the series, but again, it doesn't mean it's not fun. It still has all the great mechanics of the previous games. You know, in terms of the platforming, sliding, running and gunning, and charging, and stuff like that, it works great. And I think the suits are really nice as well, especially the jet suit. So, but yeah, now that we've got this knocked out, I will definitely try to get to Mega Man 7 sometime, maybe Mega Man 8 eventually. I'll try to get back to doing Mega Man 10, because I did Mega Man 9 last year, but never followed up with 10, so we'll try to do that, and then Mega Man 11 as well, which is actually a really awesome game. I bought it when it came out, and beat it, I think, that weekend, and haven't gone back to it to practice for a Let's Play or a live stream, but I want to make that happen very soon, so yeah, watch out for that as well. So, alrighty guys, well that's going to do it for me. If you're new to my channel, definitely consider subscribing. I've got many Let's Plays uploaded on a bi-weekly basis, and so many in my back catalog. You can check some playlists on my main channel to look for various other playthroughs. You know, if you're already subbed, thanks as always for your continued support. Feel free to give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Feel free to share it with friends if you thought it was useful. And I guess until the next one, guys, take it easy.